Recording in progress.
Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GANs processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the 83rd public meeting for testimonials here on Monday, October 9th, 2023. This is a broadcast of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Education Department and part of the public teachings in English. My name is Rick Crammond, and I'll be host today along with Mark as a co-host. And I think we're ready to start the testimonials meeting. I'm going to begin with a video called The Privilege of Becoming a Satellite Soul. And we'll listen to that, and then we'll get into the main part of our testimonials. Okay. Let me share that. And be back in a few minutes.
There is a huge burden on you who became satellites. Try to understand that with what happened in Linz this week, And with the first test, we have set a precedence for the whole change of the structure. Your child cries, he doesn't talk, you reach his soul, you understand where the pain is. You have a mentally handicapped child. You want to know how you can bring the change. You reach the soul. Does the physicality matter? Those of you who are beautiful people will come to understand, to see all the members of the family within the one physical structure. We shall see from what we saw this week, end of what I call, or the beginning to an end of the knowledge of what we build and nourish as prisons. We see an end to addiction. We see an end to criminality, and we see an end to kingship. We see the beginning of how we transmute people's soul, elevate them, nourish them, and like a dream you had, return back to them. What we saw this week in this, without a doubt, will bring massive changes to many of us. And as a head of Keshe Foundation and responsible for setting up the One Race Planet, as I have agreed before I arrive here, will endeavor to bring that as fast as possible to be applicable. And it brings a positive change. The world is going through a position of mayhem, not knowing uncertainty, and this uncertainty is creating more problems in the coming months and years, and we are here to use it to change the course for peace. We are not standing for elections, we are not standing to interfere with powers. We elevate the soul of the man in a very massive way. Now there are physical systems, and it can be shown, and it will be developed for all levels of understanding. This process of transmutation of the soul and transmutation of soul of physicality, which is confirmed this week, will bring us many, many changes. Will bring us amazing amount of changes. I hope, as human race, as knowledge seekers, you understand what you have entered into and what you have brought to be, and what is about to come, and how much change it will come and bring for all of us.
Okay, here we are back again at the 83rd public meeting for testimonials. And generally we begin the show by asking if anybody that's an attendee at our Zoom call here, if they have any personal experiences they'd like to share with the public. Now is the time, you might say. And I know that Mark has something that he can talk about. Maybe he can help get us warmed up to testimonials with talking about his knee GANs. Would you like to do that, Mark?
Sure. I actually received that over in Manchester. I know I sort of wanted to try it. I never ordered it from the store, but somehow it appeared delivered in Manchester. And again, this is a special product. I know Mr. Kesh said we're moving away from GANs. I don't know if you want to show perhaps Rick a picture or the
Yeah, I'm
store.
just looking for that. I know you had one.
It has a
It's
very
probably in.
distinctive greenish tint, almost like a fluorescence to it. I know Mr. Kesh said he's the only one that knows how to make it. He actually made it for himself in a way. He talked about going up the stairs or down the stairs. The lift was broken and he was able to do it. And he talked about the idea that the cartilage, perhaps, I'm not sure if it's the cartilage, the collagen, something is not being rebuilt in the joints of our body, even though many of the cells are replaced.
I think
And
he
we do
did
a lot
mention
of.
cartilage. I think that is the correct term there. Normally,
Mhm.
it's hard to rebuild cartilage, but with his techniques of, he's talked about using special ganses for rebuilding cartilage using, what was it, cuttlefish, I think was one of the ganses that you can make to help with that. But carry on. I've got a picture of that you've sent previously of your setup there with the knee gans, so we can have a look at
Right, and
that.
I did it for myself and by myself. Actually, very simple. Um, and what I thought, I think we looked at the foot before, Rick, and we found out there was like in conjunction with the ankle and so on. There's about 34 or 35 joints, these kind of connections in each foot, something along that line. And I had been thinking, why not use it as prophylactically to try? I don't have any major problems, but as we get older, there is a little stiffness in the joints, perhaps, or going upstairs seemed to put some stress on it. So I thought I'd start. Yes, this is the actual GANS material. It comes in a small bottle, and I think there's about 50 milliliters of the actual GANS. And then you add 250 milliliters of distilled water, let's say, to it. And then you withdraw, you let it settle. And again, this is about a 7-day settling period. And we still, normally, most of our ganses end up very clear. And we take the third top part of the water and we use that. We never touch the gans or really apply it in a way. So we take the third part of the water. So this was after a 7-day settling process. And I just happened to put the flashlight on it and little paper in back because I said, gee, this is a much different looking Gans than what we're used to. I know we see a kind of orange reddish with the CH3 and a blue greenish with the CuO and perhaps a creamy color with the a zinc oxide or a whitish color with the CO2 or vice versa.
I
There
think
sometimes
that
there.
I think this one's the most beautiful, though. It just is really intriguing. It's just a particular frequency of the color green that's just incredible. I think it's the best looking Gans out there.
One of them anyway. We've seen that at the exhibition center too. Didn't we see a table, Rick, with a lot of bottles with a lot of different colors of Gans? I know there was a yellowish one.
Mm-hmm.
There was a many difference. And again, we're just working with the four basic Ganses for the most part. Mr. Kesh says he works with 3,000 Ganses or perhaps even more. Again, he's built this technology, so he has the deepest understanding of it. So again, we allowed it to settle. I was just trying to see if it would go clear, but it didn't seem to want to go clear. And so what we did was we extracted the top third of it and put it in another jar. And this is the jar that we would use to apply to ourselves for ourselves. Again, that's one of the beauties of this technology. You can become your own sort of wellness person. You can also become a feeder of yourself. You can become an elevation of your own soul. And you can become a space traveler, even though we're already doing many of these things, especially space travel when you have a dream. I know you're already doing it, maybe unconsciously, and it's been explained as a dream. So I thought, again, this GANS is to be used for 7 days and then allow about a week in between. So what I did was I took these pads, they're simple cosmetic pads, and I actually put a mark on one of them. You can see there's a little black mark, and I used the same pads for the entire 7 days. What you see there as a dropper is just a food baster, perhaps. And you can see where I've taken the water out of the main container with the GANS and I put it into the second glass container. This is the water we use, or what we call plasma water or GANS water. We don't actually use the GANS. And in application, as I said, I decided that I'd work on my toes, my ankles, and my knees. So I put a mark on, there's 12 cosmetic pads here. And I put a mark on one with just a marker that wouldn't come off. And I put 3 drops. He suggested a 2-to-1 ratio. So the ones with the little black mark on them, I put 3 drops every day. But let's say we just started. So day one, I put 3 drops on the 6 pads that are closest to you. And I put 6 drops on the pads that are furthest from you. So now we have a 2-to-1 ratio. And I did that every day, using the same pads, recovering them so with the mark on them. So I knew. So the second day I would add 3 more drops to the pads that are closest to you, and then 6 more drops on the pads that are farthest from you. So we'd still keep the 2-to-1 ratio. And this is what was recommended. And I use that baster in a way to drop the drops on them. I suppose you could spray 3 sprays on one and 6 sprays on the other. That would work too, but then it sort of, you'd lose some of it around the edges probably. Okay, so we started with the feet and the ankle and the knees. And as you can see, this sleeve here is what I used to put around my knee to hold them in place. I actually didn't put them in a plastic bag, but I put them right up against the skin. I don't think there was a definite confirmation of which way they should be used, but we contacted the skin. So one in front, and it didn't matter if the 3 was in the front of the knee and the 6 was in the back or vice versa. You're trying to create an interaction of fields. So as you can see with the left picture, that little round pad there, sure, that has 3 or 6 drops of the knee GANS on it. And then what I used were these half socks in a way. And I put one on the right side with 6 drops and one on the left side with 3 drops, or vice versa. Again, the same with the toes. One on top with the 3 drops and one underneath the toes. And you can sort of slip them in there with the socks and so on. And you wear these overnight. And this is a process that you do for 7 days. And if necessary, the instructions say you can wear it during the day as well, if you feel it's needed. but don't go over using it for 7 days. So, whether it was psychosomatic or whether it was the process at work, I don't know how long it takes to start this process, but the ankles and the knees, I mean, there was no real problem. As I said, I didn't have a knee problem or a cartilage problem or an ankle problem, but I am getting in the later 60 years, so I thought it would be perhaps a good time to rebuild them. Well, they certainly felt warm, not warm to the touch, but warm within the area, within that area between the toes or the ankles, but I think especially the knees. They felt warm to your own senses of your body, but if you touched it, it didn't seem to be any warmer than any other part of the body. I thought that was unusual, or maybe that was the interaction of the fields. Again, it was a 2-to-1 ratio, 3 and 6. And we repeated this process, but I would describe it again. It's everybody has different interactions and different what they've noticed, but it just seemed as if the area was filled in a way with a foam for that whole week. I felt they were more flexible. They just felt better in a way than they had before, even though, as I said, there was absolutely no problem. I can walk and run and do the rest of climb a ladder and the rest. So there was actually no problem. But we thought we'd use it again, sort of as a rebuilding time, and maybe in the future. Now, this process, I don't know if it probably starts initially, but then again, it may carry on for a while. So I'm going to repeat this again. I've actually given this to someone else who's going to try it. And but this time when I repeat it, I'm going to use it on my fingers, one above the fingers. Probably wearing a mitten, I think, would be somewhat appropriate. As long as you get the pads in the area, I think you'll have the interaction. And then the wrists, the elbow, and the shoulders. So that will be my next process. But it really felt like they were a bit tighter, a lot tighter in a way, almost if it became a little bit younger or more energized. I mean, it wasn't anything where I was jumping up and dunking basketballs or anything like that, or jumping on the roof of a truck or something like that. But they just felt better, like there was some sort of repair process. Or again, am I thinking, is it psychosomatic? Could this start working immediately? I know it starts working immediately, but do you sense the results immediately? But it seemed for that whole week, everything felt much tighter, almost like a loose chain, Rick, and then you tighten it up a little bit and it's on a bicycle, and it works a little bit better. So it just seemed going up the stairs was a little bit less of a problem. Not that I had a problem, but sometimes you have that sort of sense of a little bit of tension or pressure on your knees going upstairs. That's what I noticed anyway. And let's bring Tony in while we're discussing this. So that will be the next step to this, is to start to rebuild and I think in the hands, maybe there's 14 or 15 of these joints, and there must be cartilage. I don't think it's just for the knees. As Mr. Keshe said, you can use it in many of the different joints. And there's probably a lot more going on with this material than I realize. And of course, this is being developed, I think, as he said, for reaching people in space or on the moon or on Mars. I think it's going to be put into the wellness system. Again, it's a GANS right now. It's out for, are they saying it's for a test, Rick? I think this was Dean's knee GANs that he used. Now, we don't see that greenish color. I know Mr. Keshe announced that there was a new improved knee GANs, and maybe that's the one I have, but we don't seem to see this color in the original one.
Yeah.
Not, it may not make any difference, or perhaps it's because I went through X-ray machines with it and traveling back from Manchester to where I live. But I don't think so. I think that's the product itself.
It does
So he,
mention enhanced version 2023.
okay,
So definitely a difference, I guess, compared to the original knee GANs.
right. But Mr. Keshe said that I don't think anyone else knew how to make it. He was the only one that could make it at this point. But regardless, they're looking for feedback, and this is going to be put into a wellness system where the fields will just interact. As we know, we can melt kidney stones remotely from thousands of kilometers away, probably cataracts too. We've seen teeth growth again remotely, probably through headphones and things. I'm not sure about that, how that worked with the dentist, and all these were considered impossibilities. Now, I think we'll be able to repair some of these. There's one of the pictures from one of the exhibitions, and you can see there's many different kinds. Look at the beautiful pinkish one or the yellow one, and I don't recall exactly um, how he had said. One of them I know is the honey gans, and Herbert, I believe, has made many of these. And as he said in the last workshop, they store most of their ganses in glass jars, but the CO2 and similar things can be made in the plastic because there's something, I think, with the carbon, Rick, in the plastic that it actually helps the process, perhaps. But these are some very beautiful products here, and some of them sold quite a bit. Was it? Oh, yes, I see the yellow one. It's sort of covered by the yellowish greenish one. That's, do you see the bottle in back, Rick? Yeah. I don't remember exactly what that one was, but I believe it was quite expensive. And again, the beauty of this is when you make a Gans of something like, let's say, a plant food, you can almost have a long-lasting food because you're only taking the water above the Gans. So if you make a Gans of a Miracle Grow or something like that, that could last you quite a bit. So I just thought I'd do this process, and I think I would give it a definite positive result, at least at this point. And again, I'm going to do the fingers and the wrist, the elbow and the shoulder for another 7 days when I start again. And then I'm going to go back and do the feet, the ankles, and the knees again for a second time, just to cover it a little bit more. And I don't know the reason for the break. He said you should only use it for 7 days and then allow a break period of about 7 days. So if you're not familiar with GANs, we call it gas as a nanosolid, or an energy that makes a nano of itself, a field like carbon, makes a nano of itself, and it appears as a solid in the matter state. But I just thought we'd share a little bit about the knee GANs. And one time I was laying on the couch and I just had moved my knee and I heard a big sort of crack. Again, I don't know if that was just something that happens where you crack your knuckles, or sometimes maybe your knee would crack, but it was, everything is fine. I'm still feeling the effects, but not as strongly as when I was actually wearing the material. As I said, it almost felt like foam was filled in, at least around the ankles and the knees during that week time. Perhaps there's a rebuilding process that'll continue to take place. as time goes on. So I would definitely encourage people. And again, like the monthly sessions that Mr. Keshe is doing, this is helping to develop a bigger or greater system or a deeper understanding of the response or results from people, to then put it in the interaction of fields. So we're getting a benefit by using it now, but also developing it for future people to use remotely. And I think that basically covers it, Rick.
And we know Dean had good results as well, or is having good results with the knee GANs.
And he actually, I believe he said or shared with us that he had some sort of football injury or some other sort of injury with his.
Yes, indeed. Similar to myself, which I had a football injury at a young age. We were playing, it's called flag football, where you're supposed to grab the person's flag that's stuck in their pants, and you're not supposed to tackle people. And I got tackled by this rather aggressive young kid, and it twisted my knee. And that was in.
Sometimes our emotions.
Pardon me?
I was saying sometimes when we play these little touch football games or other things, our emotions get carried away. And
Yeah. Well, I was in a tough. I lived in a tough section of town, and there were tough kids to play with, and they played hard. And this guy played a little too hard, and he twisted one way, and I rolled the other way, and my knee didn't like that. And it has bothered me basically for my whole life in many ways, but it doesn't. It's not as much of an issue. Sometimes it flares up and it can be painful, and at certain times when I've re-injured it, I've not been able to walk for a bit and so on. But it's interesting how it will tend to heal itself when, they tell you that it won't heal because the cartilage can't grow and all this sort of thing. But in effect, it does. I've got a friend that's a very large, strong person, but he's had trouble with his knees, probably because he weighs quite a bit. And it puts a lot of pressure on those knee joints. And so he had to have one of his knees replaced last year with one of the titanium socket jobs. And it's, really traumatic, major kind of surgery, and takes a lot of work and effort to train yourself to come out of it and build the knee back up and so on, which he did. And he was so good at it that the surgery he had scheduled for his other knee, the doctor says, you don't need this anymore, because basically he's out walking between 5 and 10 kilometers every morning, and that's basically what he does in the first part of the day. And that's quite amazing for this guy, because you never think that a big guy like that would be out walking on his bad knee that, previously gave him trouble. But because he's so persistent in rebuilding himself and focused on that part of his body and did everything else right that he was supposed to, he was able to take control of that. And instead of the surgery, he's now been okay to carry on. So he's really quite happy about that. And he realizes from all this work that he can actually change himself and you can apply that same principle to virtually anything. If you've got a habit that you don't like, or some other injury or some kind of problem, you can focus on it, and you can, first do all the ordinary things that you might do, whether it's through the medical system or some kind of alternative therapies or whatever, but also when we, well, as my mother used to tell me, you can do anything you put your mind to. And I thought, oh, gee, that's pretty cool. And so I always carried that with me, that anything is possible if you put your mind to it. And that's essentially what happens with the with many of the situations and products and techniques and so on. It's essentially a change of mind, a change of mindset, you might say, and you get into a different range of emotions, and you can, you know, start exerting control over your own physicality. And who is controlling that physicality in that case? Because if it was the physicality before that got itself in trouble, then perhaps there's a different entity that enters in, namely, you could call it the soul or the essence, and it can take control. It can say, okay, enough of this, we're going to make some changes here, and this and this and that, and I'm going to apply my attention to this area, and bingo, that's it. My will be done. And that energy comes through that higher energy when we're in an elevated state. And that's where some so-called miracles can occur, or instantaneous healing, or a better long-term outlook, because you've made an alteration to your mentality. And it's not just a mental thing. I don't want to indicate that, but it's a sort of a three-centered. You have your physical, emotional, and mental are all part of what makes up the physicality and that structure. So we need to recognize that we can work with all three areas. You can do things to help the physical part of whatever injury or problem it is. Put a Band-Aid on it. If you have a cut, put a Band-Aid on it. That's, that's a physical thing that can be done that helps the physicality. But the emotional part of the feeling that pain and the trauma, well, that's a different issue. There's different ways and techniques and devices and ganses that can help with the emotional side as well. And then we have the mental imagery and visualization and ideas that might be able to come through as a third option.
Right. And, just to go off of that a little bit, when you're saying we can balance ourselves out or something else, it reminded me of the story Mr. Keshe has told many times about the girl who wanted to play the harp.
Mm.
And she loved the harp and wanted to play the harp so badly, but her arms were not long enough for some reason to reach the further strings on the harp. And we've been informed that over the course of a year, because her intentions, her emotions were so strong, that her arms actually grew longer, which allowed her to reach those farther strings. So, as Rick is saying, we have a fantastic reactor. And we've heard these things, like when you brought up the tailbone, Rick. When we used to have a tail or something, and we used to be able to grow the tail if it was bitten off, as many we see lizards and other things when their tail is bitten off. So our knowledge hasn't even come up. And this is just, in a way, a system assist to help us remember what we haven't used or what's become rusty in us. And then the other point to make was I think it was every pound you lose, you said the person was quite big that had the artificial knee there, it takes off so many pounds. Was it 16 pounds of pressure off the knee? There was some formula that's understood. but every so many pounds you lose takes a tremendous amount of pressure off the knee joint.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, being on the slimmer side, and then kids wonder why their parents don't want them to play full contact sports, because some of these injuries you can carry with you for quite a long time into your life.
Yeah, that
And
knee injury messed me up for my volleyball career. Even though I still played volleyball after it, it wasn't. I always had the chance that if I jumped up, when I came back down, the knee would give out, and then it would pop, and I would be in severe pain
yeah,
for a bit, and I'd have to rehabilitate it for months, and so on and so forth. But even with that, I still managed to make it to the national championships, and we
wow,
came in fourth in Canada. But it bothered me through the rest of my life, and I had to be careful on walking on trails, with a steep
yeah.
side. I think, oh, if my knee pops out now, phew, down I go, and so on. So, but I wanted to mention too this idea of how we can learn to control our pain and using our emotion and our visualization processes. I gave the example before, I'll just remind people about it or relay it again, where I had a bad toothache in the lower right part of my mouth, like a back molar was sore. So what I did was I was lying down in bed and going through this, whole pain thing of a toothache, and I focused on the pain as much as I could. I went right into my jaw and my visualization and impressions, and I was there right with that tooth. And then for some reason I decided to shift the pain. So I actually sort of like grabbing onto the pain. I felt it totally. It was not diminished at all. And I moved it. I moved it across my jaw over to the other side of my lower jaw into another tooth. And I could feel the pain in that tooth, and it was about the same pain as the other side that was already in pain, supposedly. But I was able to move the pain very, just slowly
Mhm.
over a few seconds or half a minute or so. And at the point where I had moved the pain to the other tooth, I just started laughing because I realized that I had the power to
Wow.
to that power over my own pain, to be able to transfer it to another area. And then once you realize that that's happening, it's just so ironic or so ridiculous that you kind of crack up and go, and that instantly dissipates the pain because we're no longer focused on all the pain, and we're now realizing that we have control. We have at least some degree of being able to visualize and move things with our attention. Just a focused attention has so much power. And that focused attention, again, comes from a different place than our ordinary mental and emotional attention. It comes from the essence, because the essence can work with, that's what it does. It's more free. It's able to free up that attention and use it in different ways, and place attention and focus attention and so on. So I think the attention is one of the tools our essence has in interacting with the world. It may not have a lot
And
of tools, but that's one.
how does Gianni put it? Intention, attention, and emotion, something along
Yes,
that line. Has a
exactly.
little saying,
Yep.
and of
So,
course it's. Yeah.
yeah, that's
So
right.
you've
We set
achieved
the
that. Yeah.
intention, and then place our attention on the situation and use our attention in different ways, and then you get the results.
So again, most of these systems are made for people who are still connected to the physicality too much, which we all are in a way. But it looks like Rick is moving out of that dimension.
Well, I'm sure we all have experiences of that kind of thing. Maybe there's the old adage, for example, someone says, "Oh, I've got this terrible headache. I just it's a joke. I've got this terrible headache," and these two, let's say they're carpenters. Two carpenters are talking on the job, and the one guy goes, "Oh, I had this terrible headache all day. I just can't handle it. It's driving me crazy." And the other guy goes, "Here, I got a solution for you. Put your hand down on that board there," and he does, and the guy takes a hammer and whacks him on the thumb with it. And he goes, "Oh, what'd you do that for? Oh, my thumb, my thumb." And the other guy goes, "Now, are you thinking about your headache at all?" So if you want to cure a headache, make another pain come through, and usually our body is kind of sympathetic to us in a way that we usually only deal with one major pain at a time. So if you have several symptoms or several issues, generally it's hard for us to keep our attention on all of them at once. So the body kind of focuses on, okay, the headache, you got to deal with the headache, and okay, I'll forget about my knee, I'll forget about my finger and the cut on my hand and all my other ailments, and it's all about the headache. And then the headache goes away, and there might be something else that pops up that the body wants its attention on, but it doesn't tend to do everything all at once because it knows that that's too overwhelming, and it's probably not getting its attention to itself that way from us. So it's learned to not do everything all at once because we totally freak out.
Right, and it's been reported to us that in the past millions of years, we used to be able to grow limbs. If you got your arm caught somewhere and had to detach it, or it got mangled somewhere, maybe bit by a dinosaur, or part of it was missing, we used to have that capability. We still have the capability.
We still have in a way, and I've experienced that recently where I was working on the job and on helping with working on an old tractor, and there's one stuck bolt, and I was really reefing on it hard, and the wrench let go, and I whacked my thumb on a sharp metal edge, and I didn't think too much of it at the time. It sort of got, really hurt, but we had to finish the job. Sometimes when you're kind of in motion and you're sort of in a second wind, we'd been going for like 10 hours straight or something. That's probably why I hurt myself. And I didn't think too much about it, but the next day and through the night, it was started throbbing, and it was throbbing pretty good. So I made up a special gauze bandage package for it, and used Ganzes and Epsom salts and special concoction, and soaked it and so on, and that helped rebuild it, because I think it was broken. I'm quite sure I broke the end bone joint of my thumb. And what had also happened was the thumbnail started coming off, basically. So over the next probably 3 weeks or so, the thumbnail got worse and worse, and it actually fell off. I've heard of this before. I'd never had it happen. And when it actually happened, I was just going like, oh my God, I lost my thumbnail. And it was quite an experience. And now, of course, it's growing back, and it's about halfway there. The other half is still rough, but it's growing up from the root part of the where the what do you call it there?
Yeah, the base.
Yeah, there's a name for it, but it escapes me right now. Anybody that gets their fingernails done would know. Um, anyway, the it has grown back, and it is an amazing, incredible process where an actual thumbnail. How does the cells that are underneath the thumbnail know? Okay, we're no longer going to be underneath this thumbnail cell. We're going to have to become an actual thumbnail cell now. So everybody get together, and we're going to create a new thumbnail. Okay, right. All right, let's work together here and create that thumbnail. It's amazing. It's incredible how the body has, it's built into our DNA, RNA structure, and it knows how to send the stem cells out to start repairing and rebuilding and whatnot. And so whatever was broken in there has repaired itself, and the thumbnail itself. And part of that was another rather gross part where the thumbnail underneath had the pressure had built up, and there was a big sort of bubble happening, and it was the next step would be blood poisoning, because that's what happens when you have a big infected area that starts building up pressure, and due to broken bones and things like that, they have to relieve that pressure normally in the hospital. So I had to do that myself, and once I relieved that pressure and applied the Epsom salt and Ganses to the gauze and kept the area wet all the time. That was my big secret, because otherwise, if you don't keep things wet, then it doesn't allow it to draw the toxins and poisons out of the body and into the bandage, which is what is desirable to do. If you keep it all dry with a regular bandage, then it doesn't give it the opportunity to relieve itself, basically. And Epsom salts, they used to use it in the First World War before they had antibiotics, because when you were wounded with shrapnel, which a lot of shrapnel injuries back then, or bullets, then they didn't have all the surgery techniques and x-rays and so on available, and they would often have to draw out the infection. And that was, I think, part of what they call salting a wound. It's kind of a detrimental saying nowadays. When you rub salt into a wound, they call it like, first you insult me and then you rub salt into it by insulting me even more, or something like that. Even the word insult is like, again, salt. But with Epsom salts, it's actually a very soothing salt solution that's very close to our body salts, and close to that biggest organ of our body, the interstitial fluids, which is basically a salt highway inside the body, which works hard to carry the infections and other things away, but it gets overwhelmed. And when there's a pocket of infection, sometimes you have to remove it surgically or operate, or sometimes they won't operate until they use antibiotics for a week or so in the hospital first, as I've told about a knee injury I had at one point regarding that. But in any case, the Epsom salt poultice was used in the First World War instead of antibiotics for drawing out the toxins and for putting on over wounds and that sort of thing. It's an age-old cure that basically has been forgotten about since they started antibiotics. A doctor wouldn't tell you to use an Epsom salt poultice probably, but they would say to go in the hospital for a week with IV antibiotics. So that's what they're trained to do, and it's, because of their training and because at least in the older days it used to work not too bad. Nowadays there's many what do you call it? You get used to the antibiotics and they're no longer as effective. In fact, some of the antibiotics now have created superbugs from the use of antibiotics, so they tend to not prescribe them as much as they used to. But they do have their purpose, of course.
So we're huge field generators. We don't realize it. We have that nuclear reactor right in our head.
Yeah, but that's the main point, exactly.
And of course, the price of Epsom salt is much better than the week in the hospital, I think, whether you have insurance or you don't.
Yes, indeed. And of course, if you're on the doctor end of things, that's one of the cash cows, and of course they have insurance regulations and so on too, that if they didn't do that, then they'd be in trouble because they would be considered incompetent or worse, whatever they
malpractice or something.
Yes, that big omen of malpractice that the doctors have to work under. It scares them.
I noticed Karsten has joined us. Now, I know he said he was going to come into one of these testimonial meetings, and I'm not putting you on the spot or anything, Karsten, but he did say he wanted to show something with flies in his CO2 box or container. I don't know if it's now or later, or we'll just move on to something else, but feel free to join us, Karsten, if you have something you wanted to share today. I'm not aware of it, but I just saw you in the participants list here. I know he had some pictures, and the flies seem to be attracted in a way to the fields or the energies or something, even to the point where they went underneath the water, the salt water, I believe. But I could have the story a little bit wrong. I don't know if you wanted to share anything on that. Feel free to come in. He could be on the phone or perhaps away from his mic at this point.
Don't see him opening the microphone yet.
Okay. Maybe he's gathering some of the photographs. Don't know.
Okay, well, just let us know.
So the scans material is basically one step above the matter state, but below the plasma state, right, Rick? It's sort of an in-between, having the fields, but radiating them out kind of in a matter state way. So we're using this, and now I think we're moving into more field interactions. Two fields producing, as the sun interacts with the field of the earth, producing the light. When you travel outside the earth, it's completely dark. I always thought the light came from the sun itself, and was very amazed to find out that this field interaction is actually, or the scintillization, as Mario used to say, creating that light in the upper atmosphere. So this is the understanding.
Well, there's still light in space. It just looks dark because there's light's not hitting anything. But if you're out in the space station outside the atmosphere of the Earth, it still shows up. It's not black. It's you see, in fact, the light's super intense. It's either black or white. There's no in-between shadows or gray areas. It's super intense. And you get all of the intense rays of the sun, not just the visual parts. So you wouldn't want to stare into the sun because you've got gamma rays and X-rays and all kinds of rays that normally are blocked by our atmosphere. It's just the visual range that gets through cleanly, and what we get basically from the sun. Most of the other destructive cosmic rays are stopped by either our magnetosphere or the atmosphere itself. But the rays are still in space. There's this saying that people have that it's completely dark, and if you were out in space, you wouldn't be able to see anything. But there's still stars out there. That's why we see stars at night, not in the daytime. It's the reflection. This saying came about because the camera images didn't show stars when they show pictures out in space, because the things you're focused on, like the space station or some other bright object, makes the camera not be able to see the darkness, much in the same way as when the sun is in the daytime here, we can't see the stars. It doesn't mean the stars don't exist in the daytime. We could say that, I suppose. The stars are gone, therefore they don't exist in the daytime. They only come out at night. They only shine at night, and only in my part of the planet. So I think we need to realize that the sun still shines on things. That's why they have to put on protective blankets and everything else on the satellites, and especially on the spacecraft that are way out in space or investigating the sun or other planets. It's really intense, and it's so intense that if you're an astronaut, then you'd be in trouble most of the time because of the cosmic and solar rays and so on. The astronauts that went to the moon would have been under really severe conditions if they hadn't left at the exact point when there was a total minimum of all the cosmic rays at that time from the sun and in the environment. Otherwise they would have been fried for sure, but they either planned it or by accident managed to get by without being totally blasted by the cosmic rays, even though they got quite a exposure over their time period. Enough that it probably screwed them up for the rest of their lives with cancers and things like that.
Well, thank you for that more detailed explanation.
The way I understand it, that's my understanding. There's others that would differ from that, no doubt. Anyway, let's get back to our testimonials here. I wanted to ask at this point if we have anybody else of our attendees or panelists that would like to share anything. Mark and I have been talking for a while here, but perhaps there's an opening for someone else if they would like.
And as I've said, Rick, I did make a wish, and the others supported me, that we have more testimonials. And I think as these wellness centers come online, you will have such a long list of testimonials that it'll be inexhaustible. So the program will almost be pre-programmed, because people will want to share their experiences and what has actually they've noticed through the creation of the conditions that provide the wellness. And again, it's to move on to our own and understanding our own fields and our own interaction and emotions to create certain conditions to bring it. And again, for wellness, for feeding, for space travel, and energy production, which may sound far-fetched, but again, we know we have this huge amount of energy, huge field generators. It's just a matter of relearning how to use it. Okay, so I don't see any hands at this point, Rick.
Don't see anybody jumping at the opportunity. So, okay, we'll have to go to our backup plan B here. Plan B stands for Brazilian in this case. Let's see here, where did I hide that? We do have some testimonials from the Brazilian community, Brazil Knowledge Team. This is from, well, about this time last year, actually. And we have already gone through about, I think, 7 or 8 of these PDFs containing many testimonials. And this is the last one, I believe, that I have at this point, from October 25th, 2022. And Mark, you mentioned that you would do me the honor of being the voice for this. So I'll turn the
And of
pages.
course, if anyone else would like to read, please feel free. It's very easy. And a lot of these testimonials that we see from the Brazilian language community were actually generated just by showing them how to make the Cup of Life 1 and Cup of Life 2. And sometimes, even though it was for a certain condition, let's say, people have discovered they're using it on their plants. The dog is feeling better. The husband's this and that is not there. They're sleeping through the night, the irritability, so many other things. As Mr. Keshe has been saying, there's no written formula we can give you the way the plasma interacts, but we know it does, and we know we can create certain fields. But a lot of these testimonials actually came out of just maybe intentions were put in there. I don't know, but it wasn't made to water plants. But how many plants have been brought back to a condition of beauty just by using it? Or again, the husband's irritability or lack of sleep, all of a sudden, or pain in the back, all of a sudden, by using the Cup of Life, the wife has noticed a change. So these are some of the testimonials I think that they've shared with us, so we can share with you.
Yes, indeed. Okay. Without further ado, let's begin. I'll be the page turner and you'll be the voice, and away we go.
Okay, so this is testimony number 1. Rick has given you the approximate time frame, and there's a date in here as well. Friends, I would like to share with everyone that I did the Cup 1 and 2 and set up the healing pen. My husband spent the whole year of 2019 in several hospitalizations with a diagnosis of congestive heart failure that led to chronic renal failure, did catheterization, and put a stent in the artery of the heart. So not indicated to take the water. He is at home walking with difficulties, sleeping a lot, almost day and night straight. I needed to wake him up to feed him. Also referred pains in the arms, not being able to lift the arms above his head, constant pain in the legs, difficulties of balance, and of partial understanding. It continues. I started the treatment with the pain and the spraying, and even knowing that it was not indicated to drink the water, he wanted to drink. and we are with 6 applications of the pen. They must be talking about the pain pen, Rick?
Yes, I believe
Application
so.
of the pen, and he drinks water every day. The result, he is walking with balance. Now he only sleeps at night. He is eating well. He can lift his arms above his head. He can wear the shirt by himself. The pain in his legs and arms stopped. He started to drive again. He gets up easily. He is another person, very happy. Gratitude to Keshe Brazil, to the group that received me affectionately, to the universe, to God, Father, Mother Love, Wisdom, to all of them. I am already following up on 2 people that had COVID-19, and they are much better. Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. Testimony 2. I work from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. standing up. I didn't even have time to drink a soup with a straw. I got home feeling exhausted. My body was just asking for a bed. The next day, I had an unbearable pain in my back, crossed horizontally below the omoplates. I think this pain came on purpose. I spent the day with this discomfort, but last night I passed the pain counterclockwise that my friend Adelise gave me. Look, it was holy medicine. Today I woke up with no pain at all. Amazing. And it looks like they've produced the pain pen themselves here, Rick. Would you say that's what we're looking at in the hand?
Yes, I believe so. I don't think it's an official KF one, but it might be a local supplier that's making them. Looks like it's labeled on the other side somehow.
Mm-hmm. So again, many of these things can be done, but I know there's probably a higher order of a pain pen that you can find in the store, but now I think that the store is in a transition mode. I think that the pain pens are all gone, but I'm not sure about that. Perhaps you'd like to show the website, and that website is going to have the thousands of new products. I believe the agreement between the Keshe Foundation and the Chinese government, they've decided to make many of these products and thousands more, tens of thousands more over the next probably 3 to 5 years. You're going to be seeing products that, again, so many different ones, I'm sure, for cosmetics or for pets or so many different ones. Yes, pain pads, and that's the pain pen. And again, if you go to the Keshe Foundation wiki, perhaps you'll find that, or it is in the teachings. Does it say it's out of stock, Rick, or sometimes they will say it's out of stock,
Yeah, it
but it's
doesn't
still
mention it here. It just gives you the one option for three and get one free, basically. So you get 4 pens, but it costs 300 euros. But it gives the option to add to cart. Doesn't mention anything else.
plus a 20% value added tax. That's the European model,
Right.
I believe. But they are trying to, that's probably buy 3 and get 1 free. They're trying to lower the inventory that they don't have to move it. I know the exhibition center is moving, but many, many products in there now, 50, 60, 70 different products. Wow.
Pain pen jumbo pack for 1,500 euros for 20 pieces.
Mm-hmm. And again, most of these are preferably single use. I know the sharing, it's not quite there yet, even with the headphones that they were talking about that are offered in the store. they're basically at this time for single use because somehow it interacts with the fields of the person, almost like they leave their DNA there or their fields there, and you may not want that interaction. But I think a lot of people have shared pens, and they seem to still work. But preferably, I think they're for single use.
And that is single person use, not just the one
Yes,
use
not
for
a
the pen.
one-time use. Right,
Just to
right.
clarify for people. Okay, yeah.
So this store is going to grow into a fantastic. I'd love to see a flea collar for cats or dogs or perhaps other animals that can be non-toxic, but yet at the same time create a condition that the fleas, the bugs, so many times you see so many of these animals with their tail going back and forth all day long. They just have to keep swatting flies off their back. So this would be quite a relief, I think, for them. And I think we're going to be seeing a tremendous amount of new products and even more that people will develop that we haven't even thought of. But Mr. Keshe did say that, this store will grow to 20 to 30,000 new products. And the Chinese, their manufacturing is quite good, Rick, and quite
Yeah.
efficient.
Yeah.
And millions of pieces will be produced. And this relieves the foundation of having to produce these systems and all the other concerns that go with it.
Yeah, I think it'll be presented in a whole different way as well. The store will probably have a different format and different way of interacting and so on. But we'll see.
Yeah, maybe we'll have a central distributor for the. I mean, would we have to order from China, or maybe they would set up a distribution point? I was thinking of Arizona, perhaps, but again, that's all up in the air. That I'm sure there's a plan, but it just hasn't been shared yet.
Yeah, things are really up in the air right now. We've got wars breaking out all over the planet, it seems, and more expected. They seem to be planning to have conflicts between the BRICS countries and the old establishment of the U.S. and its allies, and that seems to be getting. The pressure is becoming stronger every day with that conflict between those two realms. Will we have a split on the earth that trade and culture will be split in half? Either you're with us or you're against us kind of mentality? Or are we about to engage into a whole new level of peace on this planet that doesn't include so many weapons and so much killing?
Right. I know Mr. Keshe said we're going to release so much technology that it's going to melt the nations into peace. And one of those places that it's going to be shown is in November in London. But that's a different story. You can find that on the website as well. But,
well, that would be excellent because right now most of the weapon structures are being sponsored by the oil industry. Essentially, they have a fairly intimate connection, especially in the Middle Eastern countries and others. If you have an oil well, you protect it with your military, whether it's private or governmental, depending. And that seems to be the way it goes. So
the program you host on Tuesday, the One Planet, One Nation, One Race for World Peace, is, I think, the new model that's going to come in. We don't need so many borders. And this is what Mr. Keshe is, I believe, negotiating with the governments presently. That as people start to use this technology of transportation and transmutation, The borders are no longer needed. We are on a spaceship. We are one family, in a way, the human family. And there's no need for all this killing and eating each other, which we've been doing, as we've heard, in the last 3,000 years, 5,000 wars on this planet. So even if we give you the advanced technology, unless the soul of the man is elevated to become that peaceful creature, we will, even with the advanced technology, we'll go right back in a generation or two to the
Well,
same policy.
this
Yeah.
is the big issue, yes. Like, take, for example, the current conflict with Israel and the Palestinians. Um, the This is like an age-old conflict in a way. It's how do you can't just say, okay, we're going to open the borders up between Palestine and Israel and open borders, but then there's still hatred on each side that they they figure, okay, the border's open now, I can just go and wreak havoc. And essentially, that's what Hamas did. They went and opened the border by breaking down a couple of walls or overcoming border sites and so on, and wreaked havoc in all the local towns. So, if there's still that hatred behind um, the cultures, then the open border policy doesn't necessarily work too well. You can't have open border when there's still the idea of terrorists. We have to diffuse terrorism and find a way for those people that are involved to resolve their anger. They might be angry because of land disputes. They might be angry because they're poor or because they've been suppressed or otherwise. For many countries, the colonialists have gone in and extracted the resources, and the people are still poor, and they're upset because they got the rotten end of the stick. So how do we resolve all that? Well, we can do that through the technology by equalizing and making things better for everyone, making it more efficient and economical to survive. So we don't have to steal from others to survive. We don't have to have the greed to have more, because there's plenty. And if you want more, you can create more with your energy to matter converter that you have at home. And you want more gold, you create some gold, even though everybody has it now as much as they want anyway. But if you want more, have at it. You want a whole room full of gold. Big deal. So what? What's that? Maybe you want a room full of food instead. Well, you can have that as well. So, what's the big deal? Why would there be conflict when we have all that we need? And we can resolve the border conflicts and land conflicts, because when we're all flying, maybe we won't value our land quite so much, because there's going to be all kinds of people visiting, and you're going to be able to visit others. Maybe you won't want to hang out on your little chunk of land and protect it so much, because you'd be so busy visiting all your friends and relatives all over the planet and having fun with them and everywhere else, that why would you stand by your little chunk of desert and defend it when you could have the whole world, in fact the whole universe, at your fingertips? So I think
Right.
the mentality will have to change, and it has to go not just in the cities, or not just with the intellectual university trained people, but right down to the tribes and people that live in rural settings and maybe are not educated and so on. Maybe they're very much into their religious culture and have some strong beliefs and hate some other religions because they are not right in their mind and so on. So how do we resolve that? It's a huge education in a way, but it's more than school education. It's an elevation that has to occur with everyone. And I think that is occurring because we find people elevating, whether you're in any position in life. And it doesn't matter whether you're in a small tribe in the middle of the rainforest, not even known to the rest of the world, or you're top of your game in a university as a professor. Everyone is elevating, and we all need the elevation. And hopefully it will occur, the elevation will occur before we annihilate ourselves as a species on this planet, which is always the possibility. But if we consider that we create the future, then we can create the future we wish if we put our minds to it, as my mother said, and put our attention on creating a peaceful future, as Mr. Keshe keeps emphasizing and keeps bringing up over and over. It was part of his basic teaching right from day one, and still is, and even more so.
And of course, we do have a material enhancement system, don't we, Rick? And I think and the Chinese got a good taste of it. Literally, the generals and some of the scientists, as Mr. Keshe demonstrated some of this creation out of fields where material was literally being breathed in, was embedded in the clothing, and was just probably falling like rain. We haven't seen any of these videos, but this is what he said. The shock on the faces of the generals was just undescribable almost. That so what are we fighting for when resources can be created out of the fields of the universe, which are unlimited?
Yes, indeed. So much of our resources now go into the whole supporting of weapons and of all the infrastructure that's involved with military. Well, miracles do occur, and I think it might even be sort of an overnight overnight revolution or evolution, overnight re-evolution that can occur. And it will occur when the pressure is the greatest, probably, and it'll suddenly flip the other way, and everyone will go, well, you don't see a lot of peace protests right now. You don't see people out in the streets protesting for peace. There's lots of other things they're protesting. But peace isn't, the protests about the environment, lots of violent environment protests even. You'd think they would protest for peace. And I think when the people start protesting for peace rather than for pieces of an existing situation, then we'll find the resolution comes by quite rapidly. People realize, wow, we really can elevate ourselves, we really can elevate others. we can even elevate our politicians so that they smarten up, because otherwise they're going to look like fools, because everything's becoming visible, everything's becoming obvious and open.
Right,
They're
and
all
this is what
becoming telepathic in a way. We can see what they're doing and where they're going, and it's just not kosher anymore. It's not acceptable anymore to be opening your mouth and BS coming out, because it's way too obvious to way too many people now. It used to be only obvious to a few people, and they called the rest sheep. But now we're all black sheep, and we're all starting to realize what's going on with the sheep herders and our controllers. And it's time to take some action.
So we've had the agricultural revolution, and then we had the industrial revolution, and now it's being referred to, this new technology, as the plasma revolution. And it's beyond the imagination of the man, even what's shown in the science fiction movies. So we're about to see quite a shock of technology being delivered over the next period.
Yeah, Mr. Keshe has given us a hint, but I think even he can't totally imagine all the potentials and consequences and wonderful things that could occur from the technology. Sometimes it only becomes obvious once you have one thing out, then the next step becomes obvious. He came up with the flight enhancement unit, this beautiful unit, and then he made it obsolete in the next year or two by leapfrogging forward to working directly with the fields rather than through the the physicality environment. So even though he realizes that that has to be built as well to keep the humans happy, and maybe we'll spend hundreds of years still, many of us wanting to play with the technology and to have the units that fly and take us to various places and help us to heal and to create new materials and all of that kind of physicality stuff. Even though what in our true hearts, what we really need is to learn how to be a creator and manipulator of the fields, so that we can learn to be true creators and have an existence in the universe once we do pass in the physicality.
I agree, Rick, and I think this is what's helped the nation of China to come on board.
Mm-hmm.
They see what the future can be, and they want to be part of it. Correct.
You would think anybody in their right mind would want to see that, but of course our right mind has been somewhat wronged. Our right mind is now wrong mind, because we've gotten into the greed of various things like the patent system and the pharmaceutical system and the scientific papers. What do you call it? When they peer review, the peer review system, and so on. These have all been so corrupted that money and power plays the predominant role, rather than compassion for others and healing and taking care of people and actually creating a beneficial effect. Now, if you have the impression of a beneficial effect, That's way more important than actually having a beneficial effect. Because with the impression, you can make tons of money. With the actual effect, you could actually end up losing money because there could be no, what do they call it, no business model for curing people. The stockholders of the pharmaceutical companies all got together and said, there's no business model for providing cures for people. So all of our products that provide cures, we no longer will be supporting them. We want something that keeps people going, basically. It keeps buying our product. So it can't totally cure them. It has to just partially cure them enough that they'll keep buying the product. We just ran into this with some of the most popular cold medicines in Canada. I think it's called Cold FX. And they just recently, it's been out for I think 20, 30 years or something, at least a couple of decades. And only recently they discovered, or Health Canada somehow discovered, it doesn't work. It's totally ineffective for colds, which is the main thing they advertise it for. So they had to pull it off the market. Can you imagine? So I just, a lot of things like that going on these days that just make me shake my head and go, wow, how did we do this?
We used to run water through lead pipes too, didn't we?
Yes, and they still do, unfortunately, in Flint, Michigan. They still have the lead pipes. They haven't been able to get rid of them. But what they do is change the pH of the water going through so it doesn't eat into the lead as much. So you don't get it showing up in the tap as high as it was, killing people and making them mentally inept. What a schmozzle. You'd think we would have learned from the Romans, but no, they didn't. And they put the lead pipes in, I don't know what it was, 50 or 80 years ago or more. And since they're all pervasive, they can't just suddenly change all of the pipes. So, and it's because of the pollution in the water that changed the pH that started to draw the lead out of the pipes and pollute the water even more. It's kind of a crazy situation.
What's your plan, Rick? Shall we go back to the testimonials, or?
Well, yes. Let's kind of got distracted there into a bunch of side issues, but let's do that. Let's finish up this testimonial here. And we're on to the next one.
Okay. Oh, we did that one. Yes. Okay. Yes. Testimonial 3. Yes, that's true. A friend of mine in Brasilia was paying 600. I'm not sure of the designation of their currency of electricity. Put the plasma pen next to the beakers of the internal distribution board, and after 3 months was paying only, maybe it's reals. Is it reals? I'm not sure. 90. So that looks like a 6-time reduction. The people of the electric company went to her home to do inspection and even took pictures, thinking she was doing energy theft in the electric grid. And I guess this is
real, or it's spelled real, R-E-A-L, so real. It's official currency of Brazil.
So that looks like a 6-time reduction, slightly more.
Very interesting way to do things, to just kind of put these little test tubes of GANs into the electrical area.
And
Very
then it looks
simple.
like a small bottle on each side, top and bottom, as well as left and right, I noticed.
Yeah, pretty much stuffed as much as they could into that whole electrical system outlet. I wonder if you put a cover over it. Nice to put a clear plastic cover over it, just to show it off. Alright, let's carry on here.
Hello, guys. I want to share something I realized here in my house. When sleeping, because of the dry weather, I turned on the humidifier and put the cup of life plasma water in it. When I woke up, I realized that the house is with the normal temperature control, despite the low temperature that had been happening here in my region. Do the tests there. I believe that plasma balances the house temperature. It helps you sleep very well and have several dreams at night. Amazing. And of course, I wasn't there. I didn't experience, but we do believe what people report. I don't think they're doing it for sensational reasons. There's no sensation really to be gotten out of it.
And others have reported about changes in the
Yes.
temperature due to using plasma technology. Some people create paint that they paint both inside and outside. You can spray it on windows, and that makes a difference. And you have the figure eight infinity loop, and some people put that up and say that that makes a difference. And Gianni makes his sun, he calls it, puts that up in the top of the greenhouse, and that seems to make a difference as well. Okay, carry on.
Guys, let me leave my testimony here. I made the cup of life one and used both to spray as to drink, and I'm using it in my little plants. I cannot explain, but the lightness and sense of balance and well-being is incredible. I started spraying my plants, and the results are starting to show. The cilantro is beautiful, and the bell peppers are already loaded. I offered the water to my sister, and she was delighted with what she felt when she drank it. I am very grateful for the teachings. I can't explain, but it is a blessing to be in a group that makes this knowledge available for free. And with this ethos that tells us the most universal truth of all, that we are here to serve and not to be served. Thank you, Mr. Keshe. As she said in this testimonial, I can't explain. And this is what was reported about with the Chinese officials. They can't explain it, but they know it works. They were given quite a few private demonstrations, I think, by Mr. Keshe.
Yep, and there's lots of places where things are explained if people really want to obtain the knowledge part of it, to explain why it happens, why it works, which is some people just aren't curious about that aspect, and others are very curious and might want to know all about why it works before they even try it to see if it works. But the fact that it works is the most important thing, and our reaction to that, whether we want to know more about it or less about it or whatever, is almost irrelevant in a way. But we always want people to increase their knowledge and to increase their experience as well. So when you try the product, then you get the experience, and almost always it's a very positive experience, I've noticed. I don't think, geez, I'd have to really try to recall a negative experience that someone has relayed about using the Ganses or sprays or any of the technology that Mr. Keshe has put forward. It is either you might have no apparent reaction or a positive one. And how many products in the world can you say that for? I don't think there's very few. You can't even say that about water, in a way. I mean, there's actual instances of people drinking too much water and dying from it. You can actually, more than a couple of gallons or something at one time is enough to actually kill you. So there's a lethal dose of water. But yet, people are able to use the Ganses and have amazing results and not harm themselves, which is the wonderful part about it.
Right. And how many people understand how their cell phone works?
Yes,
But they
exactly.
pick it up and use it constantly, don't they?
Yeah.
And it works.
But some are totally curious and want to know all the latest technology and right down to the computer level and so on and so forth. I saw a picture of the actual chip that's in the iPhones, and it's like it could be on the very, very tip of your finger, a tiny wee little speck, and that is the main chip that does all the functioning for this computer setup inside of it. And it's, mind-boggling, but who wants to know all the details when you're just trying to call your mom to confirm she's okay, or resolve some other issue or conflict, or get something or do something, or whatever it is you're using your phone for. The use of it is more important than knowing about why it works. All right, let's carry on here. Lovely testimonials.
Beautiful. Testimonial 6. Good morning. Group, I met Raphael Teixeira and this wonderful teaching in his interview at the YouTube channel of Raphael Hungria. For a year, I am in search of knowledge that are not passed in the media. I have a therapist friend who introduced me to many things here in my city of 120,000 inhabitants. I am founder of an animal non-governmental organization. Here, we do not even have a kennel. It is a challenge. My experience, my runaway mongrel who jumps from the first floor, was 15 days without walking and was also run over. We continue. And here's a picture of the pooch here. Disillusioned by the vets because the x-rays show wear of both femur attachments and loosening of the scapula of the upper limbs. 4 days without peeing and pooping, except 2 times probe at the clinic, taking anti-inflammatories. My friend produced the Cup of Life one, and I started to give it in the syringe since he didn't have strength even to drink water. It continues. Today, he woke me up at 5 a.m. I helped him get up and he peed and pooped on his own, walked around the house, and is fast asleep. I am delighted and thankful. I will take care of my family and the 300 dogs that are in the NGO. So I guess they'll be making a lot of Gans water for 300 dogs, weren't they?
Sounds like it. 300 happy dogs, it sounds like, too. That would be
Yes.
a great testimonial to follow up on that one.
Yes, it does have a way, the plasma water or the GANS water, what we call it, same thing, has a way of bringing that balance and that peaceful condition. It seems to know, it has an intellect. It seems to know where to go and what to do. That's my own comment I'm adding here. Sorry.
That's an interesting way to put it. Okay, let's go to the next one.
This meeting has opened my heart, and I can feel my breath as if I were breathing in the forest air. Surely the union of souls. I still don't understand much, but I know that nobility is in Dr. Keshe's soul and in all of you. Again, another one not fully understanding the technology, but knowing it works. Testimony 9. Regarding the plasma water, I started taking the cup of, whoops.
Sorry, I got them mixed up there. Just oh, now it's starting to go on its own. Just a second here to get it. Go. Did 7, now we're on 8. Okay, go ahead.
Great. Regarding the plasma water, I started taking the cup of life one yesterday, 4/25/22. After 1 year, practically, of discomforts that were swelling and becoming crucial pains throughout the body. And today I wake up with 50% less pain. We are co-creators. We find it because we seek for it. And someone who opens the way, Mr. Keshe, to us of goodwill, workers of the last hour, and who unite for the great journey, makes me feel that everything I have accomplished in the path that transcends the ordinary way of facing life and observing/living the meaning and the real reason for living. I thank the doors of the Keshe Foundation that open to those who are in a hurry to serve. I will give a full testimony yet. Besides the improvement in my body, there is a great joy in my being, thanks to life that has given me so much. How nice. Well, it has been showing that it doesn't have to be the way it was. It can be better, much better. Watching the videos of the Keshe Foundation, I began to understand a little more of the one who came to show us the way to truth and life, and that we still don't fully understand him. The miracles that he presented are science, and the transformations with the waters filled with plasma seem to me a similar movement. It is life maintaining itself. I understand that it is asked here not to speak of religion, and I believe these words of mine are not. I that understand the word in the sense of reconnecting, and the plasma is reconnecting to the soul, to life, union.
Just a slight correction there, Mark. It is life manifesting itself.
Okay.
Was the phrase there.
Okay.
Okay, testimony 10.
Yes, we started this experiment this year. I use water from the Cup of Life one, sprayed 2 times a week. They have grown and are producing the same as the plants that receive chemical fertilizer. And that is very good for me. That's why I keep on testing, increasing the number of plasmated rows. I am ready. I am already separating the plasmated tomatoes for next year's harvest. It continues, first planting, only one row received plasma water spraying. And of course, Gianni has shown us so much with the plasma in relation to the agriculture. I think if you go back on, this is my comment, back in the reactor group archives on live stream, you'll just be amazed at what's been done, again, without the normal inputs, let's say, of fertilizer, pesticides, and the rest of it. Second planting of 200 plants. Okay, so this is quite big. Second planting of 200 plants. These 2 rows received only plasma water spraying. Let's see here. I'm not sure what the Portuguese is stating here, whether it's the lettuce or the steak plants. I'm not sure which. These 2 rows received only plasma water. Okay. The lettuce looks quite healthy, beautiful green. It must be the 200 plants that are staked with these, looks like bamboo posts. Maybe they're the tomatoes, I'm not sure, or another type of plant that they grow there. So we continue. Area that will receive the 200 tomato plants, being 3 rows to be plasmatized. I know Gianni likes to use that. We plasmatize this, and we plasmatize the seeds, and plasmatize the ground, and so on and so forth. 200 stalks. Let's just go back there, Rick. What was that? Was the end of the sentence. Can we go back to the previous one? Area that will receive 200, whoops, the next one. Area that will receive the 200 tomato plants, being 3 rows to be plasmatized to the next 200 stalks. Since germination, being watered with plasma water, they are already ready to go into the ground. So this was quite, apparently they've popped up rather strongly here. These are tomatoes, but okay. With plasma water, she's showing a few tomato plants here for those who are listening. Some sort of green or plum tomatoes. They're not ripe yet. I don't know what the...
What do you think the straw is there for? Is that just a size comparison, or is it got
maybe.
some
Maybe.
Is it a plasma straw?
Yes, you could have some plasma embedded, or maybe the ends are sealed. I'm not sure. With plasma water, maybe just the water inside the straw. I don't see any other straws. But maybe that's how they did it. Bullheart tomato, since germination, has been taken care of with plasma water. This was one of the chosen ones to take seeds for next year's harvest. 885 grams. And what do we need to divide that by? So that was quite a...
454 grams per pound. So it's almost 2 pounds.
Wow, that's quite a large one. That would take care of a family easily, depending on the size of the family.
Make a good salsa, that's for sure. Wow, eh?
Or BLT, if you like those.
And it's hard to get big ones like that aren't all sort of defective and having things wrong with them. That one looks quite pure. And I noted before, and Brigitte liked it, that this is also a heart-shaped image of the tomato, so that's an additional bonus.
The loving, giving heart.
Mm-hmm. Funny, it's called a bull heart tomato.
I haven't heard of that one, but there's probably hundreds of different varieties around the world.
Yeah.
And of course, that's another thing, the reversal of genetically modified seed, that they will germinate. The layer of the genetic modification is going to be removed. I think that's kind of proprietary, but it's been shared intergovernmentally. And of course, the Chinese have seen a lot of that. We've seen the work of Wan Lin and others in China, and the expression of the farmers being quite happy, or the teams that are harvesting quite happy there.
And the pig farmers as well.
Yes.
That whole program. We end up washing the pigs with Gans water and curing most of the issues they have. Okay, I think that's it for that whole
Great.
program. Thank you very much, Mark, for reading that.
Sure.
Again, this is from the Keshe Brazil Knowledge Team, and this was the last document, I think. They may have some newer ones. I'll have to check into that, or if someone that's listening can send it to me. So we could use another round for testimonials meeting. Just really nicely done too, with great pictures and good description. So thank you very much.
Yes,
Keshe
and they
Team
also
Brazil.
so thankful and so positive. It's actually elevated their soul, it sounds like. Even though they applied it to the dog or the tomato or whatever, it became an elevating factor for themselves in a way. Seeing
Well, this is part of the beauty of it, I think, and the side effects are, again, beneficial side effects. You don't have to read off a list of negative side effects. You know, makes all your friends suddenly attack you or something. But I guess
right.
there is
Imagine
some of that.
your husband not sleeping and having pain and this and that, and you just gave him some water, and he's feeling better. He's driving the car. He's not sleeping all day. That's quite empowering to an individual, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And someone like that, like the woman that had chronic pain for a year, and she says that she woke up with 50% less pain after taking the Gans water. That's somebody who knows their pain. They know what level they've been at for the last year, and when they see a significant difference, they go, wow, you know, half the amount of pain, and they feel great. Like the emotion relief for just relieving half of the pain, even half, which would probably be, you know, still way more pain than most of us can endure. Because, you know, when you've been doing it for a year, you get pretty tough with enduring your pain. You have to, or you give up. And to have that change occur overnight is something you pay attention to, and you wake up, you feel better, and you go, wow, it really does work. And that's the beauty of it, and changes the emotion as well as, you know, whatever physicality ailment. It changes the overall emotion and makes you more confident that if something else comes up, you can deal with it. If one of your friends has an issue, you can deal with it. And suddenly you feel, you know, liberated. It's a liberating feeling to know that there are solutions. And that, to me, is the greatest benefit of the the technology, the way Mr. Keshe has laid it out. It has all these benefits, and we can choose to engage in all that. And it's just really wonderful the way it's been presented, and with the caveat that we must engage in peace. And, you know,
right.
How
And
many corporations require that as part of their people using their technology? Not too many.
And to also realize that the technology is only in its infancy, Rick.
Yes, absolutely. That once it becomes accepted and people actually start doing more experiments and so on, I see things popping up in the realm of science over the last decade that can be directly related to the kind of work that Mr. Keshe has been doing. And now scientists are talking about nanoparticles. It's one of the most popular paper and for scientific papers, and one of the most popular topics out there in science. It's all about nanoparticles, and some of the scientists are saying that nanoparticles are harmful, and we've done these tests, and others are saying that the nanoparticles that they're using for various health issues now, and they can
Yeah.
attach things to the nanoparticles. That's one of the biggest things, is attach their pharmaceutical drugs to the nanoparticles, because the nanoparticles are a perfect delivery system. And then they found out that they didn't have to attach the drugs to the nanoparticles. They were still working just as good without the drugs in many cases.
And we're full of nanomaterial inside and out. The hair, your hair, is a nanomaterial structure. It's like an antenna.
The bones, even.
Yes. So again, all these systems that Mr. Keshe is delivering, whether it's agriculture, energy, travel, wellness, are all soul elevators. You know, you go to the store and you see that least expensive product, which is the butterfly. And of course, we all missed it initially until it was explained to us. He said, we thought it was for capturing the energies coming off your cell phone or your computer. So he says, these are soul elevators. But we still don't quite understand it all.
Well, that could go for a description of most of, if not all of the Keshe products. I think they're soul elevators.
That's what I was trying to say. Thank you.
And that's, I think that's what I was trying to say before too, that the side effects of using these products are more soul elevators are created, both in people and in their processes, and just the side effects that's what it tends to do, is more soul elevation. And then they lead, if that elevates someone, then they go off and elevate someone else, or help a child, help an animal, help a plant, help a field, help the fields, the actual creator fields as well. Maybe if we even reach the point of being able to help God. Maybe we never thought God needs help, but hey, if you're a creator and that's all you do, it's a full-time job. Maybe you need to have some relief once in a while. And maybe that's what we're in training for, in a way. Give a little relief to God. Give a little release to the universe. As a creator, take over that position for a while at least. Because I think it would be a pretty tough one to be a true creator at the root of it all. Well, I think we've gone through our testimonials pretty good here for today. Is there anybody else that has anything they would like to present, or anything else you'd like to say, Mark, or any other comments?
May you be proud of the work you do. May you be proud of the person you are, and may you be proud of the difference you make.
Right on. Right on. Thank you, Mark, for being here today, and for your personal testimonials as well.
thank you as well, and all the people that are here in the dimension of physicality and those who are here in the dimension of energy. They may outnumber the ones that are here and the participants and attendees list.
I'm sure there's many souls that get attached to these teachings, even though they may not even hear them in the physicality. All right, well, our next testimonials meeting will be in November, coming up very rapidly, I find. Before we know it, we'll be in the ambassadors meeting. Let me just mention that before we end things as well here. Gotta put a plug in for the ambassadors meeting. Get back to the store.
Hey, this is part of the first initial steps of bringing the change. And then I think the foundation will be going on tour, as I understand it, in a way. Maybe they'll have a team that will meet with different governments around the world. They're going to have a personal, up close and personal experience with the technology. And it'll be shared again, nationals, and not only the leadership of each location, so that everyone will know, not just the leadership.
Okay, so I mentioned, oops, better share it here. Here's the Ambassadors Conference in London coming up on the 11th and 12th of November. And I note our next testimonials meeting will be on the 13th of November, the day after this Ambassadors Conference. So maybe we'll get some sort of testimonial from the conference or some sort of input there. That would be nice. In any case, most people have heard about the Ambassadors Conference from Mr. Keshe, who talks about it in the last Knowledge Seekers workshops. I'm not sure. I think seats are still available. For 2 days, it's 3,000 euros plus the VAT, which would be another 500 probably. Or 1 day can be 1,500. That is for the 11th at least. I'm not sure if you can get a ticket just for the 12th. And also the tickets can be sponsored. You can ask for basically a 50% reduction due to a sponsor that's made funds available to help people make it if they can't afford the full amount themselves. So that is a possibility as well. And let me put the link into the chat here just so we have that for folks who might want to click on it at some point and put it in the live stream as well.
And there should be some documentation of it. I know the media has been invited to perhaps record or take pictures of certain parts of this. So I'm sure there'll be something coming out about it.
I think the Chinese are supposed to advertise it and take over the promotion of it, so we'll see what turns up there. Okay. And again, the next testimonial, public meeting for testimonials will be on November 13th, Monday, November 13th, and at the 8 p.m. Central European time. I'm not sure if that's summertime then or not.
I think they do change before that.
Yeah. In any case, whatever is the local time zone for the usual Italian time area. Okay, what else do we need to mention? We could mention the next public teaching workshop, which is the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace and Justice. And that's coming up tomorrow, Tuesday, October 10th. And that starts at the 4 p.m. Central European time, summertime still. And that's with members of the Universal Council, including Mark and others. So recommend people check that out as well. And the plasma reactor group the day after that. If you have anything you'd like to present or like to tune in to our various topics that we cover in the Keshe Plasma Reactor Group, it's kind of the practical side of the plasma technology. And we'll be diving into more of the practical side of the soul technology, I think, in that meeting as well. Seems to be going that way. All right, I think that's it for today. Anything else, Mark, that you can think of?
No, thank you very much for supporting and hosting in the various locations and your commitment to this technology and getting it delivered and shared.
Right on. Thank you, Mark. Okay, thanks everyone for being here today. We'll go out with the Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit, as we so often like to do here, and see you all in the next public teaching workshop. Bye for now.